Yo friends, Steve from Black Octopus here, and I'm going to show you how I made these drum fill racks that are included in our new pack, really good drum fills. And here's two hot tips on how to make drum fills beautifully, powerfully, and quickly in Ableton. So here we go. So in really good drum fills, there is an Ableton template. You are looking at it right now. And in the template, there are two racks that I've made, and I'm going to show you how to make both of them from scratch. So here's the first one. This is how this one works. And so here's a drum file MIDI. All right, so it needs a little bit of work. That's fine. We can do that. Particularly, I'm going to switch up the toms. In this drum rack, there is 5 different tom pads. So that offers us enough variety. So this should sound a little bit more interesting. Yeah, it sounds a little bit more like an appropriate drum fill. And so this rack is awesome for making drum fills really quickly. Included in the template is the MIDI files as well. And if you feel called, check that out. If not, you can make these on your own. And here it goes. So the way this drum rack's working is I have a multi-sampled pad. So this macro here, the kick select macro, is actually cycling through the different kicks on the kick pad. So I can use this MIDI file and just at the flick of a knob here, change the way this drum fill sounds. So I'm just gonna randomize it here and see how this goes. See, I'm making some pretty sick drum fills that are interesting and dynamic, done real easily. And so I'm gonna make this rack from scratch, just so I can show you how I did it. And so here on this new mini track that I've created, I'm gonna throw on a drum rack instrument. And so the first thing that I'm gonna do, and this is an important step, is I'm gonna throw a sampler instrument on some of the pads here. Okay, that'll be good enough for now. This will be just a quick version of this. So I'm gonna go into the really good drum fills pack. In here are a bunch of one shots. So I'm gonna take all the kicks, highlight all the kicks, and put them all, not on the pad, but see where it says drop sample here? This part's important for getting this technique right. I'm gonna drop the samples there. So now all of a sudden there's 9 kick samples loaded in the sampler, and I like to rename things. So I'm gonna name that kick. And this one's gonna be for snares. So I'm gonna select all of the snares from the one shots folder from really good drum fills. Those are gonna go there, rename that snare. And we're gonna do the same thing for the toms. And we're gonna do that times 3. Okay, so now next important step. So I'm reselecting the kick pad and I'm gonna open up the zone tab and it brings me here. So with the zone tab, I'm actually gonna hit this select button. This is important, select. And now I'm gonna right click in this calibrated bar at the top, this bar up here, and right click, distribute all ranges equally. Okay, and so the next step is I'm gonna open up the macro, hit the macro button, and I'm gonna right click, map to macro 1. And so I'm going to rename this kick selector or kick select. And so now watch what this macro does, and keep your eyes over here on this calibrated bar. So I'm actually going to be rotating this macro knob is going to be rotating between all of these different kicks. I could throw on more if I want. I'm just using the ones that are included in really good drum fills. So you don't have to use this pack. You could use Leviathan or another pack that has an extensive amount of kicks, snares, and toms. And so gonna repeat the exact same steps with the snare pad and the 3 toms. So I've got the zone tab open on the sampler instrument, clicking snare selected. So hit the select button, right click, distribute all ranges equally, and then right click, map to macro 2. Doing the same thing, select. Boom. So I'm just gonna follow up. So just to do the snare, make sure the snare is doing its job. I'm seeing that move on the selector bar over here. Tom 1, you're doing your job. Tom 2, also doing your job. Tom 3, also doing your job. Great. So now I'm going to close the zone tab. And now I have a drum rack instrument where I can easily select different kicks and snares for making my drum racks. And so the next step is I'm just going to whip together a fairly standard drum beat pattern. I kind of like this like kick snare, or snare kick, kind of tom type situation. Maybe we'll do a little snare roll. And so here, let's just try this on. We can make this a little bit more interesting. Let's double up this kick. Okay, so the MIDI is a little bit more interesting, and now let's just start playing. I'm going to start off with the tom select and make sure there's 3 different tom drums. Ideally, it's nice if there's like a high, mid, and a low tom, but it's not necessarily a hard rule. I'm going to lengthen that note so the sustain plays out. And I've also added a couple buses, sends and returns over here. So let's add a little bit of reverb to create some space around the drum. And I've also added this New York, which is a saturator and some medium hard compression. Great. So that's me fiddling around, making some interesting drum fills on this particular rack.